Yeah, I mean, we humans have always expressed ourselves with color and our bodies. And for some reason, I mean, we know the reason, patriarchy, the last 100 years, it's become about the face conformity, mostly for women, beautification. And what we find beautiful is kind of the general consensus.
That's Sandra Soskic. I'm Cara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies podcast. Welcome to the Powerful Ladies podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. We just got introduced from my client and friend Sven, and we had an amazing conversation about your business and how cool it is. So let's jump right in. Let's tell everyone your name, where you are in the world, and what you're up to.
My name is Sandra Soskic. I'm based in LA, originally from the Netherlands. And with parents from Croatia and Montenegro, so nice and multicultural. I have been in Los Angeles since end of 2019, and I started my early stage company pretty much, oh, well, actually it was 2021, so not too much later than coming to LA, and that's what I'm working on.
And what is the company name and what do you guys do?
The name is Humanoid. We call it an identity platform that enables and inspires expression, self-expression in the physical, digital, and virtual worlds. And our first products are in the color cosmetics space. We call it Skinwear because you can wear it on any part of the body. So it's kind of creating a new category between makeup, tattoos, and fashion. And they're connected with NFCs with an app that kind of serves as your personal makeup assistant. Because, it all started because I was frustrated with myself. I would be buying all these cool makeup brands and they would all end up in my drawer. And one day I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm super motivated. I have all these cool things and I don't do anything. And I also had an amazingly inspiring Pinterest board with thousands of looks and I still wasn't doing anything. So after some soul searching, I realized, my barriers are pretty much time. I literally would have 5 or 10 minutes to get out the door. I have 2 kids. I was working in a job at the time. So typically I had 5 minutes, maybe 10 to get ready. And if it didn't happen in that little interval, it wouldn't happen the whole day unless it would be at a traffic light and I would put some lipstick on. But that was hardly the type of cool stuff I was actually hoping to do. I realized time and then also skills because, I'm not the type of person that goes and learns these super skills on my free Saturday. It has to be instant. And, in some cases also confidence. Am I able to execute it? Is it going to look weird? So also just basically time, inspiration, skills, and confidence were my issues. And the more I started looking around, the more I felt like more of us have that challenge. So I was like,
Yes.
solve this. We just need to make this so much easier and really democratize it. And not just be for the very small portion of women that are deeply into makeup and teach themselves all these artful skills and have no trouble spending an hour in front of the mirror in the morning and another hour to take it all down. Which is just not most of us. So I felt like this was a challenge worth solving. So we got on the journey.
I love the feature you have in the app of seeing a look on yourself. I need that for all of my products. I keep joking that I need to write a book called Everything My Mother Didn't Teach Me because I like looking nice. I like having my hair done. I like having my makeup done, but done, meaning like not by me because I'm just not good at it. Like the fact that I have ever had a photo where I look like a normal adult human being is amazing because I just don't know what I'm doing. Every time I would read a magazine as a kid, I would just skip over the beauty section, go right to fashion or whatever else they were talking about. It's just never been something that I have patience for, I think, as you said. Even though I want to look my best, it just feels so overwhelming. And I feel I often talk to my hairdresser about the fact that I'm always asking for tips and how do I do this and how do you do that? Because like you, I have 5 minutes, maybe 10 max to get ready. So how can I do it quickly? And then they'll tell me something. I go and try it. I'm like, hold on, what were steps like 5 to 0? Because there's something that I'm not doing about how this is really supposed to start. Like the idea of primer. Well, no one told me that for the longest time until I accidentally stumbled across someone on a TikTok talking about it. So I don't necessarily think it's gatekeeping. We just don't realize, I think the people who know how to do it don't realize those of us who don't, how much we don't know.
No, I think you're spot on. And also for us who don't know, speaking for myself, and I know by now because we've done a lot of research, spoken to a lot of, customers, a lot of us also don't want to spend the time learning all those semi-pro skills. It has to feel much more intuitive and easy and quick. And that's indeed what the app is, helping to do, because it kind of starts with the end result. What is the look you want to have? And then, like you said, you can first try it on in augmented reality, so you can kind of see it on your face before you even, invest the very, what is it, valuable 10 minutes actually execute it. And then when you actually feel like, oh, this looks cool, I'm going to actually do this, you have these very easy to follow tutorials. So indeed, you don't have to skip step 5 and, 7 or up to 7. It's really up to your own kind of pace and skill level. So if you have trouble with a certain technique, you can just let that step loop as often as needed and get through it at your own pace and your own skill level. But it's very much tailored to the end result and getting there as easily and quickly as possible. Because our promise is you can do all this in 10 minutes or less.
Yeah. Well, I also love that you guys are calling it Skinwear first. I love that. And I also love that it's going beyond the trending or traditional makeup looks. And it's really about self-expression. Why was that important to you, and how did that become a pillar of the business?
Yeah, I mean, we humans have always expressed ourselves with color and our bodies. And for some reason, I mean, we know the reason, patriarchy, the last 100 years, it's become about the face conformity, mostly for women, beautification. And what we find beautiful is kind of the general consensus, not so much what you individually find beautiful and how you want to show up. And we just wanted to liberate all that and really make it about expression rather than, conformity or concealment or beautification. And really kind of, be as fluid as possible when it comes to skin tone, whatever color skin you have. It really is these bold colors that work beautifully on any skin tone and on any gender as well. And yeah, self-expression as a form of communication is insanely important. When you walk into a room and there's somebody there who have actually are wearing something or have done something with their hair or their makeup that is showing a little bit of their personality, it is magnetic. You kind of want to talk to them. It connects people. And for some reason, what I noticed as well when I started on this journey, apart from being frustrated with myself and really trying to solve my own kind of very tactical problems, it was also a general kind of observation about, humanity. It felt like what's been happening the past decades, the more we have inspiration on the web and technologies and all the tools and products, the less creative we seem to be. We kind of seem to be settling into a kind of baseline of conformity. And, just think about previous decades, like the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. We looked so much more interesting, just the general public on the streets. And I was just selfishly thinking, I get joy from seeing people expressing themselves and showing a little bit about themselves. And I wanted to kind of make that as easy as possible for everybody because it is a form of, communication. And we don't want to all be the same. It just makes the world so much more gray. And I mean, I've dug since then I've dug into the psychology of all this and what's been going on. And it's been going on everywhere, from architecture to cars to colors to interiors to everything has been undergoing this kind of gray, beige, conformist sort of the common denominator, least expressive form of aesthetic. And it's a shame. I just wanted to do something about it out of selfish reasons. I just
No,
want yeah.
I totally agree with you. You know, when all the 90s trends have been coming back, I'm like, cool, when is we're all supposed to look different coming back? Like that's
Yeah.
when I think back to the 90s, like that's what was most important. Like we weren't supposed to be looking like our friends. It was supposed to be, how are you interpreting this differently? And same thing about interiors as well. Like I like when a home you walk in and you can tell something about the person because of it. And lately you walk in and you're like, is this an Airbnb? Is this who lives here? And so I individualism and sharing the stories of who you are, I think is so important. Obviously why I probably have this podcast, but I agree. It's like, where's the creative, unique approach and where's the different inspiration? Because we have done a good job of getting very homogenous.
Well, and I want to just say, for us, it's very much an identity topic rather than individualism, because what we're basically saying is the more you show of yourself, the more it invites somebody else to connect with you. And the more authentically you show up, the more magnetic that is as well. I've noticed that back when I was a kid and I would be in school, we would be most attracted to people who are truly authentic, whether they were jocks or nerds or cheerleaders or whatever it is, or punks, doesn't matter. It just is. There's something inviting and disarming when somebody is just their truest self. And and that's one of our missions, to just really kind of celebrate the benefits of being bolder. And with bolder, we mean being your true authentic self, because it requires some level of getting out of the comfort zone to be that, right? It's way easier to just kind of try and fit in and not, out too much and live according to whomever rules you think and expectations you should be living up to. But there's so much freedom and joy to be found in living your truth and living your real values and who you are. So yeah, we want to make it so easy for all of us to do that more.
I love that. I mean, it's a core foundation as to why I'm a business coach. Like I want people doing the work that's in alignment with them. So I love that. Speaking of starting a business is not easy. And starting a cosmetics, makeup, skincare business, maybe one of the hardest to get off the ground. Did you have experience in this space before you went into it? Like, what type of learning curve have you had? What advice would you give for someone else who's like, that sounds fun?
Well, I didn't have experience in the particular category of beauty and beauty products. My background has been on the marketing side and technology side. So there is obviously always a marketing component to everything you do. And there is an app involved, so there's technology. But I think there is a blessing in also not knowing too much about a certain category, because then you go about it a little more naive and feel like, surely this can be done, instead of having all the knowledge of all the kind of reasons why it cannot be done. And it has helped us in many ways in kind of really pushing the envelope of innovation. Because had we known what we know now, a few years later, we probably wouldn't have gotten on the journey of developing certain formulas, because they're just so difficult to do. Now we've developed them. We were naive enough to stick with it. But I think, there is a blessing in not knowing too much. And there was also an awareness that I personally don't have that experience. So I brought on a co-founder who comes from the makeup space, and we've kind of surrounded ourselves with advisors with deep, decades-long experiences in the various fields that we needed more know-how in, which accelerated our own kind of learning and also network, because you kind of get access to the manufacturers and get access to all the players that these people have been building over decades, and we're just plugging in. So I guess an awareness of what you don't know and how you kind of supplement that, but also embracing a level of naivete to just kind of feel like, hey, we can do real new things.
Mhm. It takes a lot of self-trust and confidence to, I think, both be fully self-expressed and to start a business, because you have to really listen to yourself. There's, you can have advisors, you can have partners, but at the end of the day, it's like a you to you, like, are we really going to do this? Is your confidence and your power, like, where does that come from? Where has that always been who you are, or have you developed it over time?
I mean, it's definitely an ups and downs situation.
Mhm.
There's definitely years in my life where I felt, oh gosh, I can handle the whole world. And then there's moments in your life where you're like a little beaten down and whatever it is that life had thrown at you, and you have to pick yourself back up.
Mhm.
It's definitely taken much longer for me to take the leap to start my business than what I probably had expected of myself. Because, my dad, for instance, has been, I would call it brainwashing me from little, hit on to kind of always strive for doing your own business, because
Mhm.
he always regretted it that he didn't do that, that he felt too risk averse. So when you grow up with a parent that always is going, oh my God, if you really want to have the freedom and the control over your life, this is what you should do. And I kind of had the luck, or maybe the not luck, that I've had a career that I actually really enjoyed. I felt like I
Mhm.
was constantly challenged and I was doing super cool, innovative things. I used to work in the creative agency world for 18 years, and it felt very entrepreneurial, and I was always doing new things, but it kind of kept me in that space of working for a boss,
Mhm.
technically, for about 18 years. But in the meantime, the monkey was always on the shoulder, like, hey, you should be
Yeah.
doing something else. And I don't know if it was, a level of fear that had kept me from doing it, or really that I was super excited and engaged in the jobs that I was doing, or probably a combination. But it took a while, right? And finally, I did not have any more excuses. I kind of got to a point where I was really bored in my job. I felt like I honestly had been doing it for too long. I had just come out of a divorce, and my personal life was finally kind of settling down again. And it felt like, okay, I'm now kind of definitely bored in this career. I have no more excuses with anybody kind of keeping me away from doing this. So am I going to try and do this? And that's when I definitely felt the fear of
Mhm.
coming out of a comfortable position of having a paycheck, and the
Mhm.
security. And I was a single parent, obviously coming out of a divorce with two kids. So yeah, I definitely had to face a lot of anxiety and demons, and also kind of do you have it in you, right?
Yeah.
Is this maybe something that you wish you would do, but you just don't have the guts or the idea or the confidence or
Mhm.
whatever it is. And that whole process took a minute as well to go through. And at the time, I didn't figure out yet what I wanted to do, but I just knew it had to be something in the fields of creativity and technology, and that I had to be in the Bay Area, because I felt like Silicon Valley is the place where those two forces meet. And serendipity, I don't know, universe. I got literally almost the same day that I decided that I had to go to the Bay Area. I didn't know what I was going to do there. I got the phone call to interview for a job at Apple. And I got myself again in front of this crossroad, like, okay, if I go for that job, obviously that's another job,
Yeah.
right? It's going to be another distraction from what you now know by now is something that you should be doing. And, I kind of justified it for myself. Like, okay, you still don't have the big idea. It's going to get you to the Bay Area, and it doesn't hurt to have Apple on your resume, and you're going to start building a network. So maybe it's not a bad idea to just kind of take a
Mhm.
little side step with the focus on ultimately, daring to take the plunge. So that's what happened. And I moved in 2016 as a single parent to the Bay Area. And it took a few years still, to
Yeah.
face all the demons and the insecurities and um, the anxiety that comes with, wow, am I able to do this? Is my idea even good enough? Um, how about, is this maybe selfish as a single parent to kind of, take away that security from the kids and jump into an adventure like that? So many things that you gotta
Mhm.
resolve for yourself. And yeah, it took me some time to get there. And yeah, there's always moments still, right, where you kind of go, oh, there's a challenge on your path. Maybe that job isn't, that bad. You know? So yeah, it's I mean, I've never had a more exciting journey, honestly. I've always been lucky in my jobs. I've loved them, but the journey that I've been on since starting Humanoid has been the most magical and the most exciting and the most I've learned the most. I've met the most incredible people. I've been challenged on all fronts. It's been the most incredible adventure. I don't want to do anything else. I am super motivated to make it work, but there's obviously always times where you kind of have a lack of confidence or there's something happening that makes things hard. There's never guarantees. I'm always following other companies and founders, and it's one thing that I've concluded is it doesn't matter how strong and established your company is, there's always other bigger challenges. The further down you are, the bigger your challenges are. I mean, obviously, coming from Apple, I've been following what's going on with Apple, and the new year has not been easy for Apple, right? Bigger companies, bigger problems. And it's always a survival game. It's just not guaranteed for any level of company that they're going to make it. And yeah, it does take a certain stomach to be able to navigate through all that. And there are days that I'm like, I don't know if I'm built for it, and then there's days where I'm like, I'm on the top of the world. This is fantastic. So it's a roller coaster.
That's a great segue into how would you define the words powerful and ladies? And does their definition change when they're next to each other?
I mean, I've become more of a feminist as I have been getting older. It's really interesting because I had those phases in my life. I would hang out with guys more, and then there would be a period hanging and having more female friends. And I feel like the older I've been getting, the more I've been really connecting with other strong women. And there's just so many amazing, strong women. I definitely think that there is a layer of, I don't know, energy, power that comes from the feminine energy and some sort of empathy, love, just, I don't know, more than just the alpha type of forces. And women have those too, and I feel like we've been forced in this patriarchal society to tap too much into the men energy and kind of put all the other powers a little away. But I think women in general are incredibly powerful because we're just wired with additional energies like love, giving life, nurturing, community, all those things. And I'm not saying that men don't have a level of that too, but I just feel like there's more of that in women. So I feel women are insanely powerful. And yeah, I don't know if there is a disconnect for me between the words powerful ladies. I think I would say ladies are powerful in general.
If we go back to 8-year-old you, would she have imagined that this is your life today?
My 8-year-old me had Pippi Longstocking as her hero. So
a good hero.
I mean, Pippi is amazing. I was definitely kind of loving the freedom, and I actually would never have predicted I would be in the United States or anything like that. So, but I definitely think I would have expected myself to be living a life that is following your passion and doing things that inspire me rather than kind of cruising / sleepwalking through life, for sure.
I do think it's so interesting that there were so many fictional examples of girls and just young people in general having adventures and following their passions and starting businesses and being detectives. And you're like, and I never realized what a theme there was going through my childhood until I've been doing this podcast and seeing how many times it's come up. And it makes me wonder what the generation who created those things was hoping or wishing for those of us who received it, because it's definitely been influential. Like, you can't have Pippi as a hero and then choose an ordinary life.
No. And Pipi would always say, I don't know how familiar you guys in America are with Pipi, but she would always say, I've never done it before, so I'm sure I will be great at it. And I love that slogan. That's one of my favorite quotes. It's very much about don't fear and keep yourself in a little box because you're afraid you're going to fail. No, just embrace it. Life is about learning. It's about trying, falling, getting up, and doing it again until you get really good at it. And I love that.
And I think there's so many, especially adults, who like, we wake up one day and realize that we haven't tried something new in decades. Haven't tried a new sport, haven't tried a new restaurant, haven't tried a new country, like a new anything. And it's like staying, Jesse Eisler says, like, stay ready. Like, ready to say yes to the thing. And so he uses that from a fitness perspective because he wants to be able to say yes to climb Everest or do this crazy bike ride. And for me, it's like, stay ready to be used to that uncomfortableness, because I think one of my biggest psychological fears is getting in a rhythm that is bland and doesn't have new. Like, I need the new, the adventure, the curiosity. I have a sphere of 8, like the 8 core pillars of life. One, self-expression. Another is curiosity. Like, if I'm bored, the world is going to be sad about that. It's like a Pinky in the Brain situation. It's like,
I love Pinky. What are we going to do today, Pinky?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a trouble to be had if I end up getting bored. But
and that's, I think, too many people somehow at some point accept that they've done the learning, and now this is life. And there's this super known psychological paradox, apparently, in humanity, that it's easier to look back on yourself and go, oh, I've come a long way and I've evolved in the past 10 years. But then when you get asked, okay, where are you going to be in the next 10 years? People tend to answer, this is my life. And, they kind of cannot envision that there will be as dramatic growth and changes as they've kind of experienced in the past 10 years. And somehow we kind of tend to just accept and sort of stay in that comfort zone rather than embrace that it's never too late to keep learning, to change things up, to, reinvent things, to create even artificial triggers for change, just move your city, do something, right? Learn a new skill, pick up music or a language or dancing, just kind of, shake yourself up a little and keep learning. So I would love to hear all your 8. I love that self-expression is one of them.
Yeah, the full 8, if I can remember them right now, it's like finances, money is one bucket, health, wellness is another bucket, love and relationships. We talked about self-expression, curiosity, learning is super important for me. Play, an area that I there's like a scoring system, like a 1 to 5 in these buckets, and I'm always not high enough on play for how high I want it to be. And then I'm missing my number 8, business and career. It's so obvious to me, I forget that it's an 8. But yeah, because I was looking at the Design Your Life book, which I think is really amazing, that came out of the 2 professors out of Stanford, and I loved it, but they only had 4. And like, there's too many things that I think need to be balanced for me personally to be happy. So I added another 4 essentially to what they had. It's similar to, I saw one of the talking head entrepreneurs on Instagram, this guy, and he's like, my whole life is 33% fitness, 33% work, and 33% family. And I went, that's it? Like, what? What about like art and creativity and adventure? Yeah. And it was,
it's, I still haven't done the work, but do you know Mind Valley?
Yeah.
So there was this one program, which was I think it's 12 chapters of designing your life. And it's kind of, when you start a business, you create a business plan, but why don't we
Yep.
create a plan for our life? And there was this couple that did this program for Mindvalley, and they do this every year. They basically kind of, and they're super successful in business, but also super successful in their romantic life, still in love after 25 years. And it's incredibly inspiring because the way they do it is they write their own life business plan for those 12 topics/chapters. And then every year they do like a week getaway or whatever, and they kind of evaluate the past year and write the next year's one. And I'm like, oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I need to do that. I started, but I didn't finish. So yeah, definitely.
No, it just speaks to how much authority we have to create whatever we want. I'm speaking, or I guess when this comes out, I will have spoken at Noya House about how to have it all. And when you ask somebody like, what would all of it include? They're usually like, oh, a family and a house and a career. And you're like, and then, and I just think like that's the stereotypical, the white picket fence American dream thing. But it's like, do you even want that? Do you want a house? Do you want a family? Like we don't have to say, choose the prepackaged option as things go.
Yeah.
And there's too much, there's not enough time to be living someone else's life.
That is so spot on, the humanoid mission, because what we mean with celebrate the benefits of being bolder is exactly that. And we kind of call it the identity loop, what our actual bigger picture proposition is. So the first, say, circle of the idea loop is, who am I? Really tapping into your values, and you've got it figured out with your 8 parts.
Spheres, yeah.
So who am I? And it's getting incredibly challenging in the modern day to figure that out, because we are constantly just kind of triggered and entertained and snacking through feeds, and because it does take some work to figure that out for yourself. And plus, our identities are scattered across physical, digital, and virtual platforms. How do you figure out what it is for real, right? So that's the first part. Who am I? The second part is, how do I show up? So really showing up with living your values, in our case, your self-expression, and showing them. And the third part is connecting with others, because we are social animals, and there's a lot of joy we get just in general in life by just, human connection. And that's the ultimate bigger picture of humanoid. But the figuring out who we are, a lot of us indeed just sleepwalk through life, unless, and this is my kind of hypothesis, I'm not a psychologist by any means, but if you are not a minority in whatever shape or form, whether it's LGBTQ or social class or immigrant or, I don't know, religious minority, it's too easy to not have done the work, right? Because you just skate through life, you're in this nice homogenous society and you fit in super seamlessly. And maybe you wake up in your midlife crisis and you go, I don't want this mortgage, I don't want this partner, I want something else, right? And we're trying to, with our system, to be that catalyst in a fun way, in a very easy and fun way, to get people on that individual journey of figuring out, hey, I have agency over my life and I can be anything I want to be. And I'm going to discover who I want to be. And I'm going to try and show up in the most authentic form every single day, not just in what I wear and what is how I express myself, but it becomes a snowball effect for every part of our life. And we believe that if we all live our own magic, that as a humanity, we can also create the world that we want to live in. It doesn't have to be the old systems that we just embrace, because it is time for change. We've lived on this planet in a very kind of, parasite type of way, growth. And it is not easy to change all these intertwined systems, but we do need to change them. And we are infinitely creative. We can solve any problem once we set our minds to it. But I'm a parent and my co-founders are parents. Our biggest fear is that we're, bringing up a generation that is going to feel like we're already doomed. because, climate change, political disasters, wars, hunger, you name it, we're doomed. So let me just, travel the world and dance on the volcano rather than, we actually can take charge and have agency also over the systems and the planet. So we call ourselves punk optimists because we actually believe we can make that change. And you have to be an optimist to feel like you can actually make that change. And the punk element is more, we want different systems. We want those systems to be more inspired by what we see in biosystems, right? Where things are connected. Nothing is in isolation. You can't exploit it here and expect that things are not going to fall apart. So that is our bigger mission. We believe that if we wake people up on an individual level to tap into their magic, that as a collective, we can also have that agency to create the world that we want to live in. And, sustainability is important for us. It's everywhere in our products and in our packaging and in how we do our business. But yeah, it's a big, 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 big mission.
No, I love it because it's so aligned with what I'm doing in a completely different space. I also love that I have a new way to describe myself as a punk optimist because it's such an easy way to explain how I pull from the punk rock and skate background of my life but I've never been pessimistic. It was never a fuck it, it's never going to work situation. It was like, oh, like it can be different. We can fall down. We can get back up. We can build something just because we thought of it. And it can radically change an entire culture if we choose it to. Yeah. I think that also, going, what I said before about the individualism or the being different intentionally from the 90s, there was also a lot of purpose in like what people were doing. Like I keep waiting for them, like, who's the new Rage Against the Machine? Like who's the Fugees that had a very distinct voice about what they were singing about? And I'm waiting for some of that to come back, and I hope it's coming. I hope we're in that next cycle because, like I'm surprised knowing what we talked about in primary and elementary school. Like we were already being indoctrinated about like we have to save the planet and we have to save the rainforest, and it's like, guys, like we already knew this. People were working on it. What happened?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean it's not done yet?
No, and that's the thing. I mean, before we started Humanoid, there were a couple of bigger movements happening. Like, you had Greta Thunberg with the climate movement, and then you had the Black Lives Matter, and then we had the Me Too movement, and it felt like there was something happening. It felt like we were really finally getting fed up with, just kind of complacency and thinking somebody else will solve it for us. And it's somehow, I guess, COVID, we all got put back into our little boxes, and now we're back all complying to the system. But there is, what is interesting when you kind of, it's inevitable to see it everywhere. Everybody seems to be noticing that there is a change in, a vibe shift. There is just something where the disparity of wealth has become too big. There is unrest in parts of the world that are paying the price of our capitalist systems. There is just a lot that is currently just kind of brewing, and the rich are getting more kind of anxious about the what do you call it, the forks at the fences. And I don't know who the next Rage Against the Machine is. I definitely have high hopes for the younger generations. I really do. I feel like they have their values, like you said. They've been educated and they've been growing up with more information around certain important topics. Will they be the punk optimists that actually kind of care enough to do something about it? I mean, time will tell. We certainly hope to inspire to get there.
Well, I recently read that America has the highest number of millionaires plus applying for dual or multi-citizenship. It's crazy because it essentially just means, well, I mean, I would also love a European passport because I would love to be able to have the freedom to move back when I want to without a visa. but I'm not giving up my US citizenship. And no matter where I'm living, I'm not running away from the problems that I don't want to deal with. And that's how it's occurring. Like, oh, well, if America has too many problems, we'll just move to Malta or Monaco. And you're like, wait a second. Like, you have all these resources. Like, what? Fix it.
No,
Help.
no, and that's been frustrating for so long to me, because I've
Yeah.
got friends who've been telling me about the wealthy building their bunkers for like a decade now, because they would be
Mhm.
the scientists invited at their round table.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, I think this was 10 years ago, he said, I was invited at this billionaires round table, and I was expecting they would have all these questions for me about which stock to invest in and what have you.
Mhm.
But their only question was like, what, when the apocalypse happens, can I do to protect my family? And they were all building their bunkers in New Zealand and whatever. And this scientist was like, well, you better start treating your employees well, like your security
Mhm.
staff, etc., because you can build all the bunkers. But what do you think your security staff is going to do? They're just going to keep their family in the
Yeah.
areas that are drowning and are going to protect you? No, it's going to be, yeah, they're going to have the muscle and the weapons, and they're going to take it. But
Mhm.
my biggest, and the scientists too, frustration was like, okay, so you've got all these resources, you have the forward-looking perspective that you can see this on the horizon.
Mhm.
Instead of using all your resources and all your influence and all your brain and ideas to do something about it, it's super selfishly kind of.
Mhm.
And who wants to live in a freaking bunker? I mean, how long does it take before they become cannibals, or what a life is that? And
Mhm.
recently I had a friend over, and she's from the wine country up north. And she was saying how in County, all the millionaires, billionaires are buying those previously weed farms, because they are all already set up with infrastructure, and everything is already there, with, the weapon posts and the gates and the, self-sustaining systems and what have you. And I'm like, oh my God. But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
The current, the vibe is intensifying, right? On both.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
how long until it starts breaking somewhere is the
Yep.
question. And how is it going to be breaking, right? Is it going to break in a very disruptive way, or in a constructive way where actually, there's some new ideas of how to solve
Mhm.
the challenges? Don't know.
I don't know either, but I feel good about knowing that I really do believe there's more good people than not. And there's more people who want to make a difference and want to be a positive contribution than not. So I think it'll be very interesting. I just recorded earlier today with an Indigenous woman who is roller skating across the US for missing and murdered Indigenous people. And the same thing she was saying about, like, you're not listening to us when our people go missing. You're not listening to us when people get murdered. You're not listening to us when we get abused. You're not listening to us when you're taking away our rights, is the same thing that's being echoed by every minority, every LGBTQ plus, women in general. I'm like, do they realize that the minorities are the majority? Like, and we're all saying the same thing. So it'll be a very interesting time. Pivoting away from apocalypse, what are you excited about for this year? And yeah, just like, what are you excited about in short term and long term?
Yeah, I'm excited about, we're currently in public beta, so we're, kind of testing the water still with early community and all that, but I'm excited about being more publicly available after the summer. So in Q4, we've been building for 2.5 years, and, we're getting close to that moment of, opening the kimono, which is, scary and exciting. So yeah, I think that, and for the longer term, just, keep building. The ambition and the roadmap are bigger than just the first, stab at it with the cosmetics. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I hope we can have the opportunity to keep doing what we love the most, which is, building Humanoid and making the world a little better.
Mm-hmm. For everybody who wants to buy the products, follow you, support you, maybe even invest, where can they find and follow you?
We're on TikTok and on Instagram under We Are Humanoid, and the website is also wearehumanoid.com. Currently, the products are only available for community members, but it's super easy to be part of the community. You just join our Discord. So if you go to the website, it's all there. You can just click on one of the links and it gets you to the Discord.
Perfect. And then we also ask everyone on the podcast where you put yourself on the powerful lady scale. If 0 is average everyday human and 10 is the most powerful lady you can imagine, where would you put yourself today and on an average day?
I've kind of started back my meditation practice, so I'm feeling in a better space, when I stick to my routines of, connecting with everything. So I would say an 8 today. There's definitely room for improvement. I need to keep up my rituals to just really take the time and prioritize it. Yeah.
Perfect. And then our last question for today. This is a big, powerful community. What is on your wish list or to manifest list, and how can we help you?
Well, currently I'm fundraising, so definitely investments or investors, angel investors, high net individuals, people who believe in what we're building. And yeah, the other part of the question was, can
just what's on your wish list or to manifest list? What can we help make happen?
Success with what this baby that we've been nurturing for the past 2.5 years. Yeah, we've really been trying to stay close to our values and close to our beliefs with it, rather than water it down to what we think is going to be that kind of bland common denominator. And that's always a bet, right? Like, is that going to be recognized? So time will tell, but I believe in authenticity. So hopefully that's going to prove itself true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a yes to me and to the powerful ladies. This has been such a great conversation, and it reminds me that there are so many people with shared values and missions working in their pockets, and that we really aren't alone. We're all working for the same thing, but just in different ways. So thank you for that too.
Yeah, thanks, Cara. I didn't know about your punk background, so we've got to share.
All the links to connect with Sandra and Humanoid are in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening and leave us a rating and review. Join us on Instagram at powerfulladies, and you can connect directly with me at karaduffy.com or Kara_Duffy on Instagram. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.